Hey, hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Lavinia.
Hello
How are
there.
you?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
great to
for
see you back.
taking. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Okay, today we have our speaker and guest with us in this new episode for the day after tomorrow, Lavinia. Let me introduce Lavinia for our lovely audience. Lavinia is an award winning blockchain and Web3 thought leader, international speaker, and the founder of Women in Blockchain Talks, the UK #1 female led blockchain education and networking platform. I'm so happy to have you with us, Lavinia, today and share thoughts about AI and blockchain with our lovely audience. We'll leave the floor for you for introduce yourself, share some thoughts about your background, your experience.
Sure. So I have been in the blockchain space for since 2017. I was a bit of a voyeur in 2016. But if you know anything about blockchain, it is very intriguing, very exciting, and very compelling. And with those three things happening, I just had to get involved. And so in doing so, I was in this place where I had a business which was focused on financial education. And if you know anything about financial education, financial well-being, to be able to give the best information service to your clients, you need to understand what is happening in the space, what is the past, the present, the future of money? How is it changing? So that you can give your clients a 360. So running the financial well-being business that I was running, this is what my thoughts were, simply because I kept hearing about blockchain and Bitcoin initially. And at that time, so we're talking 2016, 2015, 2016, it was extremely convoluted. And if people think it's convoluted and difficult to understand now, you needed to go back to 2015. And it was highly inaccessible. The process again was extremely convoluted, but I was intrigued by this cryptocurrency being a service to individuals. Is that you want to keep their finger on the pulse, and if you want to keep their finger on the pulse, you need to keep your finger on the pulse, so to speak. So as many of us entrepreneurs do, had a bit of a burnout. So I took time out to during that time, I thought, let me do some research, started learning about blockchain technology. And of course, at the time, being a newbie, I thought blockchain and Bitcoin was the same. And this is something that still comes up with a number of people who are new to this space, is blockchain and
Yeah.
Bitcoin cryptocurrencies the same, which of course it isn't. Blockchain is a technology that underpins the cryptocurrencies. So I decided that I needed to learn more, wanted to learn more. And what really intrigued me about this space was the whole transparency, trackability, traceability element of blockchain. And because for me, I think if there is transparency, then that means there's more accessibility for many, and equity is extremely important to me. And when it comes to wealth creation, we see in the world that 1% of the world population owns most of the wealth in the world, which doesn't kind of make sense. So if we can use a technology to create more equity for more of the people in the world, I'm down for that. So with that being said, I decided I needed to learn more. So I moved into the world of blockchain. I worked for a startup for a while, but my heart has always been entrepreneurial. And so, I found myself a few years later, after being in the space, and also noticing there wasn't lots of women leading or in the space, full
Mhm.
stop, and wanting to do something about it because I there's a saying, um, either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So I wanted to be part of the solution. And cut a long story short, that's how Women in Blockchain Talks was started. But it's really important to say from the get-go, it's called Women in Blockchain Talks because it's women-led, women-focused, and with the objective to get more women, attract more women into the space, but we're open to everyone, because you can't talk about equality and inclusion and equity and then exclude 50% of the world. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's
Great.
that's
Yeah.
that's a great and very inspiring experience, backgrounds, and the focus on blockchain. I can see and feel your energy when you talk about blockchain and women-led communities. Before we start our conversation, just to let our audience know, this live is streamed on our channels: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. You can watch it wherever you want. So let's start our main points of blockchain versus AI, especially with the hype behind AI now. It's everywhere. Everyone is talking about AI. And with these two kind of very important different technologies, how do you think the AI and blockchain could complement each other, or how both of them can executed in an innovative way and add value to the other for a better and more effective execution, considering the challenges of blockchain? Some people just cut short the blockchain under cryptocurrencies, which is not the case. And there are a lot of challenges in this market as well regarding the fraud behind the cryptocurrencies. So my question, very simple: AI and blockchain. How do you think these kind of two big technologies can combine?
Sure. So a couple of things you've touched on. There is fraud across the board. There's fraud in cryptocurrency. There's fraud in fiat currency. So the currencies that we use, coins,
Okay. Yeah.
pounds, dollars, yen, euros, etc., etc. So let's not just place fraud or financial fraud in the sort of basket of cryptocurrency. Fraud happens
Sure.
across the board, and
Yeah.
the really interesting thing about blockchain in actuality is that because of the way the technology, particularly public blockchains, but all blockchains, even if it's private or hybrid, because there's different forms of blockchain, which we're not going to talk about today. But the point being is that blockchain ultimately is data ledger. So it's actually easier to track the movement of a stolen asset, where it's gone through the different wallets. It's just then ascertaining who owns those wallets and verifying it, right? So you actually, blockchain, if there's fraud on the blockchain, it's easier to trace and therefore easier, even if it might take a year, because the technology is improving. Like we look at various big scams that's happened over the years, and it may take longer, or it has taken a number of years, but these perpetrators, these criminals, it's catching up with them because of the way that the blockchain is moving forward and evolving. And I think that's really important to say. So in that regard, AI and blockchain. So for me, I feel like everybody always talks about how is blockchain working with AI? And I think the question should be the other way around. How is AI working with blockchain? Because we are living and working in a new form of industry that is reliant on data, 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 data. And that is what blockchain is ultimately. It's recording of the movement of data in a way that creates transparency and trackability. And in doing so, you're able to attach that data to a physical asset or a digital asset, which is then allocated or can be allocated to a physical asset, such as tokenization. The tokenization of an asset, a property, it's cut up, and then those assets become digital because then it's recorded onto the blockchain, etc., right? And then you can get an NFT certificate to represent your ownership. So digital, but it can be attached
Yeah.
to real world assets. Another
Yeah.
The
conversation.
physical. Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
the point being is, if, for example, there's some sort of fraud, AI now has, or with the use of AI, there is that capability to put the data or to use AI to sift through that data to get to the information that you want to get to much quicker. You know,
Mm.
so AI, in my opinion, what it does, it expediates, and it also uh, it speeds up the results that you're looking for, be it research, be it creation, be it documentation. It just speeds things up. But
Mhm.
ultimately, you still need the data. If there's no data, if there's no information, then AI
Yeah,
doesn't
like you
have
all
as much
say.
gravitas. So, sorry, Damien.
No, that's what we always say. That
Sorry.
yeah, we say I always say like no data, no data, no AI. So that's
Yeah,
yours.
yeah,
That's what you're saying. Also in in blockchain, and blockchain is full of data. So you're right. So there's a lot
yeah.
of application behind. Yeah, it's full of of data. But my
So,
little question is like there's some data that are encrypted in the blockchain. Does AI can still like move with this kind of data, or it gives like a bottleneck on this kind of analysis of data, you know?
if I'm honest, I don't know because I'm not
Ah,
an AI. I know how to use AI tools, but I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
and it's very important to say right now, I am not technical. I'm an entrepreneur, I execute, I have the vision, and I use the tools to execute the vision in order to create that inclusivity, that diversity, and that equity. And that can be done in many different ways, which I'm sure we'll touch on during the course of this conversation. But in regards to that convergence, one of the key things that we are aware of is fake news, right? When we are
Mm.
using AI tools, how do we know if that data is copyrighted? How do we know if that data
Mm,
can be used? How do we
Mm.
know where that data came from? And so, one of the things that I advocate for is provenance of data, which is an important part of blockchain. If you are recording where that data came from and that's recorded onto the blockchain, then it creates more transparency to say that data is clean or that data, the source of that data came from this place. So that trackability, that traceability element, right? And of course, there's different ways that you can um, play the system. But generally speaking, if AI is used for that in the convergence of blockchain, I think that we then have the
or
opportunity to know exactly where the data is coming from, if it's
Mhm.
diverse, if it's inclusive, if it's transparent, and if it's fair, fair
yeah, yeah.
use of that
It
data.
almost has to be like embedded in the AI system so that you can like have a tracking can be a good way in the vision of the blockchain in the evolution. Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Hmm.
think in this day and age, and the way that young people think, and just generally people think, a lot of people, like when I say a lot of people, I would say fair-minded people, we want to know where our assets, our clothes, our products, and our data is coming from. And
Yeah.
this is where blockchain is perfect because it has that supply chain trackability, traceability, and transparency element that can be used to prove the provenance of those assets.
Yeah. That's and like moving on also on the NFT and AI governments, what role do you see AI is playing in the future legal standards and around like all the digital assets? What's the kind of role in that specific area? What you see on the governments, NFTs?
Yeah. So with NFTs, ultimately NFTs are non-fungible tokens, which
Hmm.
basically means that it's one whole asset. So think of the Mona Lisa. If you cut it up into pieces, it has no value. Whereas £10 can be split into £1 coins and it has an equal value. So when it comes to NFTs and legal framework, it's difficult for me to touch on because I don't have a legal background. Now, one of the things about me is that a few years back in 2022, two of my NFTs were stolen from my wallet, and I took it to the High Courts of England and Wales. And in doing so, I
Yeah.
was granted the world's first ever proprietary injunction rather than a worldwide freezing order, which basically meant that it was saying that NFTs that were stolen from my wallet were my property. It wasn't a case of we're just freezing the asset and therefore it's illegal for you to move. It's saying that it's your property, it's my property, and the person who has stolen it, the entity who has stolen it, should not move it because it isn't their property. And this set a precedent. So it's a law.
A
It was
case law now, yeah.
passed.
You were part of? Good, amazing.
Yeah. So Osbourne versus Persons Unknown, if you want to look it up. So my
Yeah.
surname,
What year? Which
Osbourne,
which year you said it was
2022.
that? Okay.
2022. And it was, of course,
Cool.
in the jurisdiction of the UK, England
Yeah.
and Wales.
In the
But
UK.
as we know, the UK law has a strong impact across all the laws, all the different jurisdictions across the world. So
Mhm.
yeah, so a set case law, and that law is now being used around the world in different cases, has been and still is, and it had an impact on how NFTs are viewed from a legal perspective, i.e. ownership, insurance, because if you own it, then you should be able to insurance, and taxation, because if it's your property, then you may have to pay tax on it. So it was quite an important move in the NFT space. And then in addition to that, during the course of the movement of the asset and the whole case, one of the other things that we did, which I believe I was the first one to do in the UK jurisdiction, was to receive like an order, or to send the order to, like when they say in the movies, American movies, you've been served, right? So it was
Yeah.
like that, but via NFT. So it was airdropped to the wallets, because that way no one can't say, well, we didn't receive it. There's proof that it was received. Even if you didn't open it and read the information, you can't say you didn't receive it because it's all on the blockchain, right? So that was a first as well. So, there's
So we
different.
can say we have a celebrity today on the talk.
Yeah,
We have yeah, we say that. Let's say
I won't deny.
that.
So, so with that being said, the legal framework and the legalities around the movement and how we interact with these new technology and these new tools is very important to me, because ultimately we're talking about the protection, consumer protection. And if we want, particularly blockchain, to be seen as a credible technology and a safe one, we need frameworks, but we also need frameworks that are not going to suppress innovation, which is a very fine line between protection and innovation. And so obviously different jurisdictions are doing it differently. For example, the Middle East, Dubai, they are very forward thinking in regards
Yeah.
to the new tech and embracing
But
it. Um,
in the
whereas,
government, yeah, there it's included in all their ID. The blockchain is inside the governments now. The technology of the blockchain is used inside the government for ID purposes, like all the controls and all that. That's kind of
exactly,
incredible. Word. Yeah. Yeah.
it is. Whereas in the UK, we're looking at a legacy
Mhm.
system. So that legacy system is going to have more impact to utilize these new technologies within a legacy system. So generally speaking, more people want to keep what has worked. If it's not broken, why fix it? Even though things evolve, right? There's a time for everything. So to answer your question, it's very difficult to talk about the legal framework, what's needed, but ultimately, you know, what I will say is that different jurisdictions do things differently. Every government is aware of what's happening with AI. The question really is do they understand the convergence of blockchain and AI and how it can work together? And what does that look like ultimately? But things take time, and it will be quite interesting to see how this space evolves, particularly with AI standalone, blockchain standalone, and then
Yeah.
both of them coming together.
But
Yeah.
you're right, because like blockchain, when blockchain it exists since a long time, and it's still for many people a new topic, or a really new technology that most people don't get it, because and you're right, what you were saying at the beginning, like crypto blockchain is the same, but no, it's not the same. Blockchain is a
Mm.
technology, crypto is just a the use of the blockchain, but blockchain can be used. So, but the adoption of blockchain is long, and the AI now is ramping up. So now, how can like these two technology? I'm excited how to see how it will go for sure. But you're right. Now it's to see how they can match in all these different fields, like governments and the topics we're seeing. So and yeah, thanks for. I wanted to say that. Thanks for clarifying at the beginning. Blockchain is not crypto, and it's a use, because
Yeah.
everyone that doesn't
That's a
like
very
that's
common
starting.
confusion. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of people.
confusion that, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's clear and that's great. I think I'll take from your words regarding the inclusion. How do you think the AI can drive more inclusion participation in the blockchain and Web3 spaces?
Well, what we're seeing at the moment, so before we had in the last year or two, it was all about AI, using AI to create, right? And
Hmm.
now we're looking at AI agents. How can we
Hmm.
use, or people wanting to create AI agents in regards to get things done faster again, you know? So in my mind, how I see AI agents is they are small language models rather than large language models. And because
Hmm.
it's small, you could even change the S of small to Pacific language models. So,
Hmm.
for example, Women Blockchain Talks, we've been going since 2019, and we've built a great network, a healthy, thriving community, with different members, different levels of engagement. We're very much on LinkedIn is our main platform where we share stuff, and where we, create our content and stuff like this. But with
Yeah.
that being said, because I do have that, and I've also been quite specific about the audience, and our audience, it is women, but I would say the core professional women, founders, between 35
Entrepreneurs. Mhm.
onwards, you know, so quite mature people who've lived life, worked, etc., etc. And then though I would say that's our main audience. And those founders aren't necessarily in blockchain. They are just founders who are interested in tech and wanting to do something within the tech space, right? And but then in addition to that, we have women, individuals who just want to know about crypto. They're just looking at the speculative element of blockchain, and that element being crypto. And then you have other people who want to build a career in crypto. They're not interested in building anything, being a founder. They're not even necessarily interested in investing in crypto. They just see this space. It's exciting. How can I transition my skill sets, my experience, my expertise
Learn. Mhm.
into this space? So, with that being said, AI agents are an interesting feature for any community. And so, for example, with Women in Blockchain Talks, we are looking to create, we're working on it at the present moment, AI agents that could help that individual who's looking for a job in the Web3 space, helping that founder, be it a woman or another gender, who's interested in looking for funding, a PA agent who can just help anyone with just PA work, the grunt work, so to speak. And so AI agents so that's just talking about community, right? So that doesn't mean it has to be Web3. My community happens to be Web3, blockchain, of course. Um, but specifically now with blockchain, how can we use these AI agents? Well, utility, tokenization, creating or being able to assess what tokens are the best out there, for example, for someone who wants to invest. We could also, the ways that we're looking at is if when we have our token, because we haven't tokenized women in blockchain talks yet, but that's one of the things that we plan to do. It's on our roadmap. But once we've tokenized, we can use an AI agent to be able to distribute, and I can't say that word for whatever reason, the tokens, but also allow, if you are a certain tier membership, you can access this AI agent, or you can, so it does all of that work for you, that grunt work for you. So this is how I see AI working with blockchain, particularly in a community environment, and also how AI agents, particularly again within a community environment, can help create that inclusivity and that diversity. So diverse knowledge base, diverse interest, but also helping people from different diverse communities to get involved, or to entice them or attract them to get involved in a space they may not have looked at, but because of the ease of use of AI agents, small language models, specific language models, there is more accessibility for them to utilize it because it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, so you're trying to see like to really narrow it down. It's interesting, yeah, your point of view is like not even because not seeing global, but really narrowing the agents in small tiny pieces to be in your specific area. That was yeah, interesting. And jumping on what you were saying, like how do you through women in blockchain, your talks, how are you seeing AI can open up new opportunities? I don't know, you were saying job, education, or whatever for women and minority creators. How can they leverage AI to open new opportunities for them?
In the same way that I
Yeah,
I touched upon, if I'm honest, the tools are out there. It's just a question. I think it's like like one of my superpowers is to be able to take complex information and then speak about it or deliver it in a way that makes people think, oh, I never thought of it that way,
not so complicated.
Exactly. It's not so complicated, and it actually is more relatable to me as an individual. Now, the question is how excited does that information make them feel, in the sense of, I need to jump on this bandwagon now, or yeah, that's interesting, but my priorities are still A, B, C, and D. So, with that being said, a tool is a tool. How you create the tool or how you deliver the tool make the difference. I remember being at school as a child, and most times I hated science. But I remember I went to this one school, and the teacher was so good at delivering information. I was getting A's. That was what it became one of my favorite classes, because the way they delivered the information, I got it, I understood, and therefore I was able to apply myself. So
Mhm.
that's how I think about AI agents, right? They could be super complex, or they're still going to be complicated technically, but the way they deliver the information could be a way that
It's
makes
simplified.
people
Yeah,
simpler.
exactly.
And then that
Yeah.
will, and in
Right.
doing that, it will help. I think it will then make people feel, okay, this isn't taking as much time. This isn't as complicated as I thought. Let's do this, because ultimately the truth of the matter is, and I know you gentlemen know this, AI is here. Blockchain is here. The future of work is here. If you don't get on board, you're going to be left behind. So find the community that can help you, find the tools that can guide you, and
Yeah.
utilize them in order to position yourself for the future.
Yeah, you and one of the things you were on saying like what the good tool about AI is also like being able to simplify some things or explain things differently that so leveraging this like even in blockchain, which is kind of a complex thing to understand, complex work, how it works, how it hash all this. There's a complexity behind. I think if we there's an opportunity here of using AI to kind of simplify this in the explanation and through talks, through content, through whatever, for each individuals to have their learning curve improve through the AI. Because you're right, not everyone is able to transcript or explain. There could be amazing expert in blockchain. They will talk to it, but you will not get the message because it will not be able to be transmitted. I think that's where there's an opportunity on using AI to kind of democratize the blockchain. That could be an interesting way or opportunity. One of them on what you were saying, but that's I totally agree with you.
And I also,
Yeah.
it's, what's also important as well is where I think AI will help is localization and also culturally, in the sense of, like, you think
Yeah.
about blockchain and tech and just business, what's the first language? English. So to me, you can't talk about diversity and not take into consideration that a majority of the world do not speak English. So how do we get the message over to them? How do we
Yeah.
create inclusion and accessibility to them? And I believe AI agents can help with that a lot.
Yeah, we
Interesting.
saw it. Even
Yeah.
us, like when we delivered some agents for clients company, you can like all this inclusion about even in Africa in some territories like the language, the AI is able to break that barrier of inclusion because through the AI you can talk. He's well, Mohamed is laughing because he knows what I'm talking about, and even like in some really specific language, the AI knows it and it blocks this barrier of inclusion just going you through using through these agents through AI where we don't have to put a heavy load on translation on stuff or an extra work. AI does this, so it breaks
Yeah.
this inclusion. Yeah, totally. That's yeah, and
Yeah.
we that was a use case we had that was very interesting because it break the barrier professionally. We did that side, and the AI was able to help us. Like yeah, it was very inclusive. The
Yeah.
test
Yeah.
we did, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
always,
think as well.
sorry, go
Yeah. Go.
ahead.
Go ahead. Sure. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please, Mohammed.
Yeah, I was just adding regarding the one of the benefits I see in combining the AI with blockchain. Blockchain is a great technology, but a lot of people, regardless the part of complexity of the technology itself, but as well the development of the technology or the way the users start to use the blockchain is very slow, in a very slow base. But the acceleration that AI can add to the blockchain, it will help a lot to increase the usage of the blockchain technology. It will even start to educate the market about the implementations of the blockchain, not only the crypto. NFTs is part of them, smart contracts, the decentralized autonomous
Yeah,
organizations. Blockchain is everywhere. It could be implemented in a lot of
yeah.
aspects, but the complexity of the implementation, it was one of the barriers for a lot of people and even organizations to start utilize using it.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I
Case
think,
study right there.
I think this takes us to another point. You've referred some thoughts about the NFT, about the crypto, but my next point in question, it's regarding the smart contracts and the decentralized autonomous organizations. How do you think the role of AI and how the AI can be used to enhance the automation, security, and in smart contracts or the decentralized autonomous organizations?
With smart contracts, I think it's more complex because, of course, a smart contract is not a contract. It's just a number of or I want to say orders, but orders is not the right word. If you do A, B, C, and D, then D, E, F will happen, and if you do D, E, F, then C, G, H will happen, right? And so with AI agents, they can help to execute the smart contracts. I mean, it's already automated, but AI agents can just help do it in a more succinct, efficient way. Because I think one of the things that we're forgetting is that um, all of these texts are quite expensive. However, why people want to utilize is because they know if they can get something done quicker, then it makes it easier to put something out to market. And if something is more efficient, then usually you're saving money in some area. There might be a cost at the beginning, but then with the speed that you can implement, you're getting a return on that investment quicker. And also because of the efficiency, you're also cutting costs in regards to the tools or the other third parties, particularly in blockchain, that you no longer have to use, right? So people
Mhm.
need to appreciate that we are talking about this technology, um, but we're also talking about business, right? And most of us are looking to propel our businesses, our ideas, and all the rest of it. So one of the things that Women in Blockchain Talks is a very, advocates for, and is very passionate about, is blockchain for good. Okay, so blockchain for good has to look at the levels of equity, transparency, again, trackability and traceability. Hence, one of the reasons why I love blockchain. And then, you know, just like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. So I say all of this because in my mind, I'm looking at, with smart contracts, how can it be used to create more equity? Looking at all the
Mhm.
data, how it's being used, because again, it's analytical. So it can say, okay, this is what you've been
Mhm.
doing, the smart contracts, but with this AI agent, we're going to now analyze everything very quickly and see how you can do it better, right? So
Yeah, or
that's
Mhm.
that.
even quicker execute the orders or put the logic of the smart contract. But there, because
Yeah,
behind every smart contract, there's a logic. What will happen? What are the conditions? I think that's where
right.
AI can help, like on putting down
Like
the conditions of.
optimizing the process. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, optimizing the
Exactly.
Mhm.
process because you have to think what will my smart contracts do after. Yeah, we have the technology of the smart contract that can be done, but I think to help on this stage before it's very interesting, and we can leverage and empower AI to do this. Yeah. For,
Exactly. And
mhm.
with the outcome that we want, rather than,
Yeah,
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't know it could do that. You know, I'm always of the mindset, you don't know what you don't know. But the good thing with AI, you can put your strangest, biggest ideas, and it will give you
Mm.
a idea or a direction, right? So that's where I see
Yeah.
AI agents in the small contract. Then in regards to DAO, again, it's analyzing the sharing of the tokens. Is it fair? Is it equitable?
mhm,
How are people voting, especially if it's a governance token, for example? And of course, with most DAOs, it is token orientated, and decisions are made, generally speaking, via a governance token or with the token that you hold. So how are we making sure that it's being done fairly? Or even what some DAOs were finding was that, yes, all these people own the tokens, but they're not actually voting. It's the same people
Mm.
voting. So maybe an AI agent would be able to, based on knowing my personality, my profile, it's like, okay, you have the ability to vote with your tokens, but if you don't vote by this date, based on your profile,
mhm.
and obviously you would have to give
Like a
that permission
predictive.
at the beginning, the AI agent can vote on your behalf. Therefore, we've got that activity going on in the community, and the tokens are doing what they're supposed to do, which is vote for A, B, C, or D, right? So there could be that element, I believe, where AI agents are being used. And maybe people are doing this already. I haven't read anything to say that it is. And the thing with these things is that you can't just create it. It goes back to the legal framework. What are you allowed to do? How are you allowed to do it? In what time frame can you do it?
Mm.
What are the repercussions if you do it incorrectly? There's so many things to think about. But that's the thing with technology. It's about pushing the boundaries, right? And
Yeah.
testing.
And we're
Um,
just
Yeah.
we had talked on that. It's just the start of the regulations, even in AI for the
yeah,
government and blockchain. Same thing.
yeah,
That's why blockchain is also we're keeping blockchain on especially the smart contracts using some governments either for real estate or whatever because the governments are blocking kind of the regulation are not here behind or scared. So, but there's a huge gap still to continue to go through because the technology is here. We said it right now. It's all about like government regulations on some specific area, but yeah, because it's very innovative, so it would break a lot of stuff on how people work, like how AI is doing right now. If you imagine a smart contract in the real estate, it's very powerful, like to sell the properties through real contracts and not notary way. That's a huge, yeah, that's a huge topic. It could be a separate
Yeah,
topic, I
huge.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, going that way, how do you see the convergence of AI and the blockchain in ethical, technical, or even social challenges when these two powerful technology will collide? Like, how do you see that?
So let's just talk
Just start
about
with one.
ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we're looking at scaling, interoperability between. I mean, let's just take AI off the table, right? Blockchain still has issues around
Yeah,
scalability.
that's what I said. Yeah.
Certain blockchains, not all, because there's different blockchains. Bitcoin is a blockchain, Ethereum is a blockchain. For those who are listening, there's different blockchains, different level ones, different level twos. And so one of the things that we're looking at within the blockchain, the whole blockchain ecosystem, is how do we create interoperability, scalability. So all of those things um, is a problem that still needs to be resolved on a mass and general level within the blockchain ecosystem amongst the different blockchains. So now bringing AI, that even impacts it more because it's more energy, more content, more data, more connections, and things are going to break, right? So with that being said, I believe that we need to look at the scalability and the how AI can help with the scalability and the interoperability elements. And again, that's reviewing the data, the use. Some of the things that I'm looking at in the work that I'm doing is if you look at a lot of AI, the language being used is more compatible with Web 2 tech
Mm.
tools and tech
Yeah.
stacks. Web 3 now, not so much. So the question really is that connection of how are we, it's not using an AI tool to do something in blockchain, it's about AI and the Web 3, the blockchains working together and the AI's understanding or being able to connect the different AI tools to connect with the language that the blockchains use. So that's the technical issue. That's the scalability and the interoperability. And then you've just with AI, full stop. You still have the ethical issues. How biased
Mhm.
is it? How is the data being used fair? Is it copyrighted? Is it transparent? Is it real? So all of these things. There's a lot of work, and it's
In
it
both
makes
areas. Yeah.
it makes it super exciting, but also very overwhelming. And I think if you're in this space, one of the things that you have to be aware of is having that awareness to ask the right questions. Don't ask short-term questions because you're going to get stuck. You have to look at the bigger picture of how
And try to
everything is
break it
working.
down also to
Right,
on moving on.
right.
Hmm.
Right. It's not a case of, oh, it's just giving me this data. No, you need to know, is this data legal? Is this data
Hmm.
fair? Is it biased? Ask the questions because if not, you're going to get bit in the butt, later on down the line.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's very clear regarding the type of challenges in this area. But as at the beginning you mentioned, it's data. It's all about data, and data is everywhere, even in the AI or the blockchain. This takes me to the other point we would like to get your point of view about is how AI can be aligned in the blockchain's value of data ownership and decentralization. And any kind of risk you think it might be there and we should take care of or be aware of.
So you talk about, can you just rephrase that question? So AI and ownership.
yeah, the data ownership within the blockchain. How do you see the AI can support or add value to the data ownership and decentralization within the blockchain? Does it have a rule? Does it add a
Well,
value
I
for the data ownership?
ultimately it's about, I
Hello?
think I think ultimately
Yeah.
the source, right? So how the data is collected, how the data,
Mm,
yeah, how the data is collected and how it has been recorded in the collection of that data. Ultimately,
mm-hmm,
how do you verify? Because the blockchain is all about, it's not about trust, it's about verification. So ultimately, like one of the things that we're looking to do is leverage our community to create diverse data, you know,
mm-hmm,
and in the way that we collect it, we will record it at every stage. So if somebody wants to verify how that data came about, then we've got a proof of provenance. And I think this is the direction that I see and can imagine a number of companies will have to go. Because, like I said, young people, all people, but particularly young people, I should say all people should, but in particular young people, they
Be
ask these
careful on what you
questions,
say
you know.
for old people.
Sorry?
I said, be careful on how do you say for old people? What category of age?
True. But you know what it
Are
is?
we
It's
in it
just,
or not?
no, we're in it, but we're just more trusting
Okay.
because we've been conditioned, you know?
So you said it.
Yeah, we're just more conditioned. So,
Sorry, I stopped you in
no, it's
your
okay.
thought.
It's fine.
I
No, it's
stopped you in
fine.
your thought. Um, yeah, like in the fun, like because we were like just jumping on something. Like I wanted to, because when I talk about like creation, creativity, economy, like created, AI creates now the assets, visual assets help a lot in the creative space to create some content to put on some content in place. When I think about the NFTs and the trend we're on the NFTs, like with these little drawings that were sold on NFTs, some of them like sold them like a lot
Yeah.
and these things. Yeah. Do you see how AI? Do you think there's still an avenue for here on AI to generate, or is the trend slowing down, or is there other avenues how AI can help it to generate and monetize these NFTs or other kind of NFTs?
Yeah, I think you're talking ultimately about content generation. And so how I see it is, you can have AI generated art, but again,
Yeah,
if it's AI generated, then is it really yours? Because again, you need proof of
yeah, that's it.
provenance, how valid, all of those things.
mm.
AI powered music, elements of that would need to be looked at, but it doesn't mean that it can't be yours. As long as everything's copyrighted, because you can take what's old and make it into new. I mean, people have been doing that, particularly in the music industry, for how many years now, right? And AI driven storytelling. We look at, authors are using AI to create interactive and dynamic narratives. Again, though, we need to think about, um, we need to talk about the copywriting of that, making sure that it is fair use. And all of these things can be tokenized as NFTs. And these provide a new way for readers to engage and own, digital assets ultimately, because the way we collect things now is going to look very different to how we collect things in the future.
And I didn't check recently, but are there cases like, or is it a trend like AI generated images with specific prompts or whatever are are put it into NFTs to be sold, or is this happening right now on the NFT market?
Not that I'm aware of, but
No,
ultimately
yeah,
the
that's what it
NFT
is.
market is
Mm.
quite, uh, yeah, it's quite, it's still quite, it's not as buoyant as it used to be. So I'm not
Yeah,
really
it
sure,
slowed
to be
down.
quite
Yeah.
honest. But
Mhm.
yeah, but we'll see what happens in the future, right?
Yeah,
Because there's
I think yeah,
music videos and a lot of yeah.
that's a bit. It has a complication like the copyrights in terms of any creative work. Whenever we have the AI that starts to generate those kind of content types, how it could be controlled and managed inside the blockchain, and the ownership it goes for what. I At the end I just wrote a prompt. It's not my actual piece of art, if we can say, regarding the music, pieces of musics, or even graphic designs, or even writing books, like, or
Mm,
creating something in written itself. I think that's a very complicated topic, and I think a lot of
mm,
things will change in the near future in for this part of ownership, or intellectual property, especially for the AI generated content type. This could take me to the like always, our guests, we ask them at the end of our conversation about the trends. Damien asked about the NFTs trends, but I might ask the general trends in the blockchain or Web3. How do you see the coming few months or years regarding the changes might happen for the blockchain combining with the AI?
mm. Well, marketplaces in every forms have always existed. So maybe decentralized AI marketplaces where, AI models, algorithms, and services can be bought, sold, and traded in a decentralized manner, democratizing, the access to AI technology. What that looks like exactly, or why one would do that, one has to weigh up, would it be worth the investment of doing that? How much will it cost to the returns? But as things become um, more easily accessible, maybe that will just become, like a given, so to speak, of creating AI, decentralized AI marketplaces. Um,
Mm,
this, I think, could then help with inclusion, because even if you have all these tools, it doesn't mean everybody knows how to use it. So maybe if they were to use a marketplace like this, they'd be able to get their ideas and then create from those AIs, like, like a white paper AI model that they've bought or they've sold or they've traded. Um, and I think this could then prioritize these marketplaces as accessible, that accessibility element to users from diverse backgrounds, that caters for a wider range of needs and use cases. The other area that might become a trend is AI powered DeFi, which is the integration of AI into decentralized
Decentralized.
finance. Yeah, decentralized finance, and this
Mhm.
will help create a more sophisticated financial instrument that is easy to use, de-risking or helping to dis-risk the risk management tools, because there'll be tools to help people understand it better so it doesn't feel so complicated, and creating trading strategies, because people are always going to be interested in making money in one form or another. And again, this could be done with inclusion, as part of the design, as at the forefront of the designing the AI powered application, DeFi application, making it more user friendly, transparent, and all that good things. And then also increasing, which would be a positive thing, increasing, financial literacy and resources, right? Which kind of goes back to the beginning when I was talking about my former business, financial well-being, because that's what we want. If you have financial well-being, if you have understanding around financial um, information or subjects, then you can create more equity for yourself because you're more confident in doing it. So I think AI
mhm,
powered DeFi could be quite interesting just because of the whole equity, wealth creation, making money that people always want to do. And then the other element could be privacy, preserving AIs, because as touched upon and as we all agreed, we're living and working in an industry of just data, data, data. So I think having that privacy, protecting your data, protecting your assets, protecting your creativity is going to become more um it's going to be more incentivized, because people are going to understand that because of the accessibility, your creativity is going to be easier to manipulate. So how do we we protect it. And so I think that's be of that trend, and allow users to maintain while benefiting from the insights and services offered by AI.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, very potential. As you mentioned, I think AI combined with the blockchain will change a lot. It will be like accelerating the spreading or the expansion of the blockchain implementation in different industries, different even regions as well. Like having the push of AI regulations, the blockchain as well will be considered when we think about the new technologies and these kind of complex things. But it's time to think about, because now we have the magic word. It's AI. AI is helping a lot to accelerate whatever implementations. I'd like to thank you, Lavinia, for this very interesting and insightful conversation with you. Just need to our audience to remember this live is recorded on our YouTube as well. You can watch it whenever you want. And for the people who would like to listen for audio podcasts, it will be available as well on our channel on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much, Lavinia.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Lavinia. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing also your vision
Thank
and
you.
everything. It's a big topic,
Yeah.
thing. But thank you
Yeah.
for explaining all that. Yeah, it was fun to see you
I
back.
think this could be
Also,
like it could be like another like series of talks. It's huge.
yeah,
Blockchain has a
we
lot
need
of details.
we need to do a
It might
congress
be.
about that. Like like when
Yeah,
we
why
met
not?
last time at the congress, we do a specific congress on that. That's a topic,
Yeah, yeah.
Lavinia.
Yeah, yeah.
We go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye.
Bye.